Kids, I'm here to tell you, dreams do come true. Reason being is because A, I get to stand here right now. B, I get to say, there's an icon in this room. There are no words for her. All you simply say is she's here. It's Patty Griffin. I don't even know where to begin because Patty Griffin is literally sitting across a table from me right now. And I think saying it's an honor just feels cheap because there's so much more to you being here. It's really special that you're here today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm honored.
I definitely put you up in the icon status for me.
Well,
I can count on probably one hand the amount of times that I've been influenced to sing and create, and you're in that top 5. And it was probably over 15 years ago. I was bowled over by you at the Ryman Auditorium, and it was you and your guitar. You sang "Be Careful." Something happened to me. Like you changed the molecules in my body. I was ugly girl. I was trying not to distract anybody from the show because my shoulder, it was like where your shoulders are up, heaving.
Wow.
And I had that moment where I was like, man, that is the gift of music. It's heart surgery.
That's what you hope for.
Yeah. That has just stayed with me for a really long time.
Thank you.
That requires some real honesty to sing that way, to write that way. The way you write is just so inspiring to me. And I was just telling someone the other day that when I was saying I was so excited to get to talk to you, that your voice sounds like weeping and laughing at the same time.
Oh, wow. I love that. Thank you. That's very sweet.
And I'm wondering,
because I love music that does that.
Right.
I'm always looking for music that has the contrast, you know.
Who are those kinds of people to you?
Well, I've been listening to a lot of Brazilian music.
Yeah.
It's been on my radar, and a lot of Latin music.
Mm-hmm.
I think the lyrics from other parts of the world that come out of a deeper place. Lots of times they're not adulterated by having to get it on the radio. So,
right.
So the tradition is not interrupted. From cultural traditions aren't interrupted that way. So there are a lot of especially I've noticed my focus has been on Latin America, like how many times when you go and look up a translation of the lyrics and it's like they're like kind of skipping around and it's like, and we were walking through the graveyard and I remember, you know what I mean? It's like a whole different vibe. Mm-hmm. I love juxtaposition that way.
Yes, I do too. Yeah. Like in Buena Vista Social Club, I do this too. Like I'll look through what the lyrics are, and in Chan Chan, it's like I salivate like a dog over you, and I'm like, wow, didn't see that coming at all. But it's just like, and then it just rolls over your ear and your heart somehow. And you feel the passion.
I know, and you know, all those people writing in the songwriter rooms. There you go. I'll salivate like a dog for you.
That's right.
That's freebie. You can just borrow that.
That's right. That's right. On this beautiful record that you made called Crown of Roses, you were just talking about sort of the different cultures, you know, infiltrating the sound. And I felt like I could hear that on this record. It was like a certain kind of spice sonically, even in how the guitars were being played and handled. And some of your delivery kind of reminded me of some of that music that you were just talking about. Did you feel like that was a direct influence and that you kind of let it soak in through you and by osmosis it just came out?
Well, I have been in Austin, Texas for 28 years, almost 30 years. Yeah. And that, you know, Latin music is pretty prevalent there. And I play with Latin players over the years. And I've been playing with a drummer that I worked with years ago. He's sort of circled back into my life, and he's a Latin drummer. And the guitar player that I play with has played in Latin bands, even though he's like a goofy looking Scottish guy.
Didn't see that coming.
Cornish guy.
Yeah.
So I think part of the reason for, like, at one point in my life, it was, do I live in Nashville? Do I live in Austin? It was a relationship that was taking place between here and there, and I was here and he was there. I went there really because of the proximity to Mexico, and I'm from Maine, which is also a border state, and people don't realize how different it is culturally because of that. So I really love Latin art, music, writing, the magical realist writers, and that just makes a lot more sense to me than a lot of things that are linear. And off and on through the last 30 years, I've really just been immersed in different kinds of Latin music. And one of the lead inspirations for me in getting this record made was Rosa Passos. She's a great Brazilian singer. And I think a lot of people in America don't know about her. She is a major force in Brazil, Brazilian music. And also, a guitarist, songwriter, guitar player. And she's in her 70s now. She's still working. You can follow her Instagram page, and she's amazing.
You said a quote where you said it's really a constant thing to try and be alive while you're alive. I'm really curious to hear more about that from you. Of how have you managed to stay alive in all the senses of that?
I guess what I mean by that is one of the more powerful things that I've been working on doing in my life is for quite some time now. And as I get older, it's paid off. I don't think it's gotten easier, but it's paid off to just be present first for myself. And that makes it a lot easier to be present for others. And I think when you are present for others, like truly present for others, it does magical things sometimes,
You mentioned the pandemic in some ways as a part of this record, but not in the way that most artists talk about. You said something like, I'm going to paraphrase it. It was like, sometimes I feel like the earth is oversaturated with words. Like didn't want to add more to that conversation. And I felt the same way during the pandemic. And I found that to be not as common as I've been talking to other artists. I've even felt like shame during some interviews being like, man, did I not capitalize on this time? But we weren't working hard enough.
That's
what it felt like, but I was definitely busy homeschooling and solo parenting and trying to pay bills. And there were other things. It was a little more survival for me, but I didn't feel like I had the bandwidth to write. It felt like, in farming terms, like it felt like the ground needed to lay fallow. Did you feel that way as well? And if you could look back over that time, if you could guess, like how many songs did you actually write during that time?
I think I think maybe 2.
I just told my producer, I think I wrote 2.
Yeah. And one was about a feral hog, which I sang for my mother on the phone, and she loved it.
Oh my gosh.
And she kept on checking on that song for years. And I kind of just went, I don't think I can do the feral hog song.
This brings me to a place I was hoping we could walk down the road together a little bit, which is mother-daughter dynamics, which I think most of us know is a mysterious, deep, sometimes fraught relationship. And from what I read, it seemed like you two reconnected more sort of in the sunset of your mother's life. Do you feel like it was like you were only able to sort of make Crown of Roses, that you were unburdened a bit by no longer carrying that unfinished business with your mom, to step into making this record? What was it like to reconnect?
I can't say that it's unfinished. I feel like she just became present in my life. And I think that different things happened over the years, like a lot of people's lives go. And people lose their connection, and for whatever is going on, then hurts happen and resentments happen, and they pile up on top of each other, and nobody's willing to, risk going back in. And after my dad died, I was the only person that could stay with her in her house, which she lived in with him for like 40-something years at that point. But I was the only person left, and she kind of looked at me like she'd drawn the short straw, and I just went, ooh, that feels terrible, that we're just like that distant. And we both kind of went after a relationship with each other, and it took years. It was a little stopping and starting, and then the pandemic really cemented that for me because my sister ended up moving back to live with her in Maine, but she was kind of trapped as a 90-year-old in the house, and so I talked with her a couple hours a day every day.
Wow.
And that was it was just like sitting on the phone and doing New York Times puzzles together, and which I hate doing, by the way, but
that's some real love.
Very linear.
Yeah. Yes. Back to linear. Yeah.
But
you were speaking her language, it sounds like.
Yeah.
By doing that.
And she really, she just needed to talk to people.
Yeah.
And I just started to just learn without knowing I was learning how to stay in there and be present, and you can just fall in love all over again with somebody. And I felt like we lost our connection. She experienced some very difficult years when I was growing up, and we all did in my family, and a lot of financial problems, and just so much stress. I think people. You hear people talking about the lower income, and I think you very rarely hear about how much stress is involved in living and growing up that way.
Yeah, and you were the youngest of 7.
And I was the youngest of 7.
Yeah. And
everybody was so stressed out, and because it was sort of right on the line all the time financially. And that was a big part of it, was that. And she just kind of broke under the weight of, I think, so many things. And my mother was sort of came into motherhood in the 50s. That was like McCarthyism, and that's like trying this big push for women to be, very one flatlined, you're this in America. Yeah. And then she sort of went through the birth control showed up sometime in the 60s, and then, she didn't take any because she was Catholic, but she was she started to sort of look at how things were and the double standards in her life. And I think by the time so much had occurred to her that she felt really trapped by that.
Yeah.
And I think she probably was menopausal, I think, too, when she was going through that too.
That makes sense.
It was a little bit rough to live with her.
Yeah.
I wish now people talk about menopause, they just started talking about
right.
it.
Thank God.
Thank God. It's kind of giving me this. I was doing the math the other day, and I was thinking, I think she was in menopause right through that period of time where I was just like, okay.
Yeah. What's happening?
Goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah. You pieced out. Had you known.
I know if I'd known, and she'd been allowed to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, in words, having language and words for it.
Yeah.
How did you, under the weight of your, all that you were living through and carrying and seeing your mom go through, out you came into the world making music and being your own strong, independent woman. So much of this record, it feels like it's talking about love and death and heartache and joy and connection and acceptance. And I wonder, how was that as you were a creative soul and merging finally with your mom and having those conversations? Like, did it feel like you guys were speaking foreign languages to each other, if any at all?
You mean way back when?
In the way back when, and then in the reconnect.
We had our own relationship. There's nobody else in my family that has the same relationship with my mother. I mean, but my relationship with her was, we were friendly adversaries. I think we just ended up respecting a lot about each other because of the differences. And they were very clearly defined. And I had no choice but to be myself with her. And she was free. That made her free to be who she was, which was really, that's a good thing to go through when you're leaving the world too, to have that safety of that kind of love around you. I think you're just free to, do whatever you have to do to get through this, really the hardest part of your life is the end, I think.
Yes.
So,
are you someone that thinks about time a lot?
Probably I am. I don't, it does definitely sneak up on me.
This album feels like a culmination to me of so many lived experiences in this really full way. How has time affected the way that you create and the way that you see where you are now?
I'm so grateful to be able to have done this for such a long time. I did think about quitting during the pandemic.
You did?
I wasn't really sure if I had anything left to say. And I do think there's a whole set of new voices, especially in America, that need to be heard. And do you need, if you've already had your time, should you be taking up any space at all?
Wow. What pulled you back to say, I'll sit here?
Well, I also had such a struggle with my voice, like starting with leading into being diagnosed with cancer, and my immune system was completely upended, so I was sick all the time, and then my voice was weakened, and then I got cancer, and then there's a treatment, and then there were the drugs, and then so this voice was very diminished, and I put a record out in 2018 or 19. I made it in 2018, put it out in 2019, and I had a very hard time with that because it was a diminished voice that I used to sing the record, and I just couldn't get comfortable with this figuring out what the new voice was. And I went, well, maybe it's just time, you know? But the more I just kind of worked on singing for singing's sake, like I just started doing like Broadway musical vocal exercises. So you're doing like Peggy Babcock, you know, like stuff like that. The whole just experience of singing is so soothing, and that I started to figure out, you know, what voice was mine.
How to love it now.
Yeah, and so
wow, Patty,
it makes you feel very joyful to sing. It kind of clears out cobwebs, and it just it's automatic. So if you put a lot of pressure on it, like you're supposed to be doing it for a living and be important, then it's just not.
You're missing the mark.
Yeah. And so, and I think that it had gone through that lens for quite a while in my work life because it kind of just did, because everything was going that way. And
well, and it was always there, right? Your voice was always there.
So we can all go over here and do this with my voice now, you know, and now it's just a different, it's sort of gone back to the start. It's gone back to where you know, it's like, when you're a little kid, you love the feeling of singing.
Yeah.
And
yes, you do it in your kitchen now and not just at sound checks. And
yeah.
You continue to be a inspiration to me about not just how you make music, but the person that you're determined to become along the way.
Thank you.
Especially as a woman in this business, it's hard to change, shift. God forbid we use the word age, but like that as I would like to think, as we become finer as a wine, if we're using that, but things change. And finding a way to love that. Has it been sort of getting back into the singing, like you said, like when you were a kid? Has that been your portal? Like, teach me your ways right now, because I'm not long behind you.
Well, I think the aging, you have to remember that aging is going to bring a lot of grief. It's shocking how much it brings. And it seems to come abruptly. Like suddenly you notice that I thought I'm always going to be fine because I'm a hard worker and I know how to do this and this and this and this and get myself there. Yeah. But, so, you know, now you've been through cancer and you have half a boob and then you know, like, and you have no energy, you know. I think that the thing that's been great about it aging, I think as a performer, you get the ability to really get a lot of bluff going on along the way.
Tell me more.
Well, you're just working so much and it's an emotional thing. And you got to fake it till you make it in a lot of different situations. And that's just really not the greatest thing to be doing on a regular basis if you're trying to write songs.
Right.
You know? I think that getting older and having to give up the certain things that, like a big fat voice to hide behind and go be athletic. If I was just having an emotionally tough time, I might do a very athletic vocal show.
Yes.
And it's probably really boring to watch. But it was really...
I think you might have a couple of people disagreeing with that, but yes, but to
you know
your
what
point.
I mean? It's like now to come out and it's more barren. I have a more barren voice.
It's more honest.
So you got to figure out how that works.
Yes.
And it's more vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to get yourself in the practice of doing it after you stop doing that. But that's been a great part about getting older.
I was listening to Long Time. I don't know why, but as the last note on Long Time hit, I was like, oh, that, in the best sense, it made me think of Johnny Cash's project with Rick Rubin, where he sings the old folk song, a spiritual, God's Gonna Cut You Down. And Long Time felt like it stood right in that same forest.
Wow, thank you. That's very... Thank you.
And I'm wondering what it was like to write that song, and what was it like to record that song?
It was in the early days of Gaza, the bombing in Gaza. And there was a news thing on all that was going on over there, and they showed a little boy who was 11 years old, and he was the head of the family. And he was in a tent with bombs coming down on him. And he had literally an infant and toddlers to look after. He was in charge of them because he had to be.
Yeah.
Not only is he lost his family, the older people that were taking care of him, and now he's got no choice.
Yeah.
And he's 11. And it makes you think about through all of time, like how many people have been in that kind of hot water, deep water.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to always be thinking about people in that kind of deep water. It's good as a human being for me to try to have them in my mind as much as possible. I'm not really sure how prayers work, but I do think we are all part of that.
Yeah.
We are all part of bringing each other up.
Yeah.
And
when we remember that.
When we remember to do it, and think the more I can remember to do it, the better it gets. But I really just struck me how bad that was for him, and how long that was going to take him to, get through that, if ever, and what he thought life was just a week ago was going to be, and what it is now. And we can all have moments like that in our lives, but there are people having moments like that in their lives.
Yeah, every day.
And all you really have in a lot of those moments for most people is reaching out for something to happen that goes the other direction and to the air. It's all we have. And I feel like it has a lot more power than I've given it credit over the years. But also, it takes a long time for it to work. It doesn't show up really fast.
Yeah. Patty, I feel like I would just love to pour you another cup of tea and have you stay on this front porch, but I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Thank you very much.
I just thank you for the way that you showed up with all of your honesty and humility and your life in all its facets, from family dynamics to cancer survival to aging and changes, and your constant, the wonder you must have within you to continue to write the way that you do is such an inspiration. So please keep doing what you're doing. There's always a chair at the table for Patty Griffin, at least at my table.
Thank you. I'm really honored. Nice to be here.
Yeah, I'm so glad you showed up. So wherever you can hear music, but especially on Apple Music, Crown of Roses, please go listen. Patty, what a gift for you coming on Southern Craft. You can come back anytime.
Thank you very much. I'm really honored.